Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Babette, and today I'm going to talk about the subject that all these little subjects are going to surround, is that we are able to approach a renaissance in the literary arts, the humanities world, and we gotta freaking do it. Because I think we can do it, but we gotta keep pushing. What is inspiring this video is I just watched it's like a 12-minute video by Adam Walker. It is called, I took notes. Um, it is called What Comes After the End of Reading. And let me see when he posted it. He posted it a day ago, and I've never seen Adam Walker's videos. A couple of his work has been recommended to me, but I've never actually watched them. And today I watched this one after watching a Yuki Mishima video by Horsejaw, another YouTuber. And it is just, it's good. If you see me looking away from you guys, it's literally just me looking at my notes. I want to go from most recent to less recent, but still fairly recent. I want to open with something that Adam Walker said that really made me like he was building up to this idea, and then he said this thing, and I was like, that's exactly like the case. He says, we need to see the humanities for the public practices that they are. And that was like, yeah, actually, we do need to do that. And what he was building up to this idea is he was talking about, he opens with the decline of literacy in America, and he's talking about different dimensions. He's saying yes, yes, the literacy rates are declining. That's not, we're not gonna say that's not true, but he's talking specifically about the inevitability and seductivity are words that he uses, those kind of dimensions to the decline narratives in general. He's referring to the ideas of who is to blame. Is it the big uncultured those and them? And he also does make the point, he's like, the decline in literacy is true, but more people than ever before have access to media and education. So, what's up with that? He makes the point that there's very little dialogue despite being many voices. And he's saying that the danger of these decline narratives are a big thing is that they ignore those who care to preserve and further the worlds of art and literature, and that we need to, these narratives need to stop overlooking the average lover of the humanities who protect and preserve amongst their everyday lives. He's talking about the average person um who works 35 hours a week, who has chores, who has all these things they can't devote, and for especially people who aren't formally considered to be in the academic world. And he does bring up the point okay, well, lots of people are saying those numbers of people are so small that the redirection of culture is impossible. And Adam Walker brings up this great point in his video where he's like, dog, historically that's never been true. So many Renaissance are from, he brings up lots of names of people who are now big household names in literature, in the arts and humanities. They were doing their work in between jobs, in between all sorts of things they had to manage, and they were also during their time, some of them considered during their time average or beginner writers. Those ideas that he's presenting made me think about how much content I'm seeing, especially on YouTube. And obviously you get recommended based off what you consume, but how many how quick we're moving through information. Specifically, there was the analog bag trend, And now I'm already seeing videos about people saying, like, guys, like, analog bag trends are nice and all, but like, are we just returning to a new form of overconsumption and rebranding it as intellectualism, you know, and like rebranding it as living slowly and living well. Um, and I'm getting so many, like, I'm getting videos talking about, like earlier, I took notes on Horsejaw's video. It's very brief. It's also about 12 minutes about um the big three from Yuki Mishima, Confessions of a Mask, which I'm currently reading. Um, I think I'm a little over halfway through Confessions of a Mask, and I'm very much enjoying it. It's a very great read, and um very interesting too, because obviously I'm not going to speculate on someone's sexuality. That's none of my business. But the way that um Horse Job like talks about Confessions of a Mask is like about just how much it's about death. And and he does bring up that it is also about sexuality, but I perceived it as like very much like sexuality is the main focus, and the ideas of death are sort of an assistant to that idea, if that makes sense. um but he's also taking into account Yuki Mishima's history, and like the fact that he committed seppuku when he attempted that failed military coup. Um and like he's also taking into Horsejaw mentions that specifically Confessions of a Mask is considered heavily autobiographical, but what is fiction and what is not is up for debate, because like we don't have confirmation from Yuki Mishima. um like we kind of know that he's bi, but like he doesn't talk about that stuff directly, or didn't talk about that stuff directly. um and I'm trying to keep my train of thought going, but I'm seeing just like a lot of um people who love the humanities and love arts making videos, and I want to start reading people's work too, because video essays are great and all, but I do need to be reading these shorter forms of writing. um and it kind of, I guess my main point is like, this makes me think that we really could get to like a romantic revival, like another sort of renaissance, and maybe even one that's kind of revolutionary, because of the age of AI, and and I would say, like, in resistance to AI, Adam Walker says like we need to continue resisting it, not fall victim to these decline narratives that specifically do a lot of separating between us and them. And maybe I'm paraphrasing a little bit and not exactly grabbing the right ideas, but um, that's a little bit of my opinion thrown into what Adam Walker is saying. Um, that there does need to stop being so much separation of us and them, overconsumption of AI and the people who don't use the overconsumption of AI and the people who don't use it at all, because we consider it unethical. And honestly, I'm one of those, if you want to know my stance on it, I'm one of those people who is very uneducated about AI, but something in my gut, like the amount of water it takes and the fact that it can't empathize, it is literally in the name artificial intelligence. It is not real intelligence, it is mimicry of intelligence. Something in the gut says we can't let this like run our lives, the way that some people are doing. And um I think that this surgence of AI is really going to change things forever. And obviously obvious that's a pretty easy statement to make, but in the way that I see it is that the people who are so dedicated to the resistance of it is really gonna, I kind of think it's gonna catapult us into a new romantic revival, a renaissance that maybe is like never seen before. Um, and I connect that to the fact that, like Adam Walker says, more people than ever before have access to media, have access to education. They can read all these things online for free. Um, More people have access to public libraries. We need to take advantage of that access. And obviously, that comes from a privileged point of view, because not everyone has that access yet, especially if we're talking internationally. Um, and I guess a weak transition when I say internationally. Um, I want to go to. There is a YouTuber. I want to say that I'm pronouncing their name right. Like I'll spell it for you. It's GODESULLON. I'm not sure if I wrote an N or an H here. I believe it might be an H. But I'm just gonna say Godasulo. They posted a essay about, or they posted a video discussing their essay called "Being Black versus Being Human." And this essay was fascinating to me, and I flipped to my notes here. A part of it is that I want to collect all these ideas together and connect them for memory reasons, and also because I am trying to do the whole create more than you consume thing. Kind of a trendy thing. I don't know how long that's going to stick around. Um, the trendy idea of it, but there's always has and always will be people who are constantly like pursuing the arts and humanity and creating in the arts and humanity, because I also saw it, that reminds me of this video title that I have in my watch later playlist, that I'm pretty sure it said everyone who reads has the want to write. And I was like, why are you calling me out right now? Why are you pointing a finger at me? Like, for the longest time I have always suppressed the fact that I do want to write. And I mean, I do write constantly every single day. If we're just talking about morning pages, I do a couple of full morning pages every single day. Um, but I have been suppressing the fact that I want to write and be like what I read. And that is something that I'm going to have to address again in the future. We're going to have to come back to it. I'm going to have to revisit it. Being Black versus Being Human. I'm honestly just going to read you some of my notes because I struggle to articulate. So it looks like I watched this video like the last day of June, so about a month ago. Being Black and being human are synonymous, and yet we sometimes speak as if they're not. Um, the biggest point that I want to bring up, that I was like, I might have mentioned this in another video. Sulon is talking about the reactions to certain stories of Black success. And he's talking about how lots of Black folks will have pride about stories of Black success. And he is specifically saying that that's not a great take. And he says three different things um, that I wrote down in quotes here because I really wanted to keep the way that he worded and I'm saying he, I'm not positive about he, so maybe I'll stick to they. Basically, they say, I need no proof of these. The humanity of Africans, these are all a couple of sentences apart. They say, I need no proof of these. The humanity of Africans is not up for debate. Pointless to prove a foundation in which I reject. And I was like, oh my God, how had I not taken it that way before? He said having pride, or they talk about the pride in general of black folks for stories of success about black people, and they're saying like, dog, like, I know that we're capable of this. I don't need proof that we're capable of great feats as much as any other human is. I'm proud of this story of a success as a human, not as a black person. And I was like, that's very interesting. I'm pretty sure I'm paraphrasing something else they say, but they said to use these stories of black success as proof of humanity when one's humanity is on the line is something you cannot do. Then they kind of go into the claim, like what are we claiming? What can be claimed? They say to claim only myself makes me my own foundation. Humanity is mine to claim because I am a human being. And then I wrote, there are no epistemologies in the world that could be considered unsophisticated. So why distinguish one to be so? I think it's because they were talking to someone, and that someone, I believe it was Yoruba, they were saying Yoruba epistemologies are so sophisticated. And Godasula was saying, like, what epistemology is unsophisticated? Why did you feel the need to make that distinction? Why do you feel the need to prove that specifically an African epistemology is sophisticated? And it's like, because you're subscribing to that same narrative that Africans, like blackness as opposed to humanity. And Godasula talks about like blame and addressing the hypothetical racist with like skewed concepts through the Western lens. I wrote specifically something that Gorosolo said that I really appreciated the way that they worded this about the epistemology thing. They said, let the complexity stand on its own two legs and just present the truth. And I was like, ooh, they're eating us up in this essay. Like, I need more. I wrote, yes, you can claim anything that you want, but what are you doing with that claim? How do we tell history with blame? Human-made barriers could be considered artificial distortions of the best of what we are as a species. I would not claim anything that is anti-human. White supremacy is anti-human. What is blaming a group versus blaming an individual? Blame is eventually Gore in a utopia. There's a question of free will that Godasula mentions. Can you choose to not be your environment? Blame versus accountability once again is revisited. Those are those notes. That was only a couple pages that I have, and I think before that I have an almost Orpheus video about Clarice Lispector's The Apple in the Dark. Yeah, that was a good video. These are the notes from that. I have the classic thing that I draw all the time: a fish eating an apple and the apple saying ouch. And then it goes back to, oh my goodness. I was in a very doodly mood when talking about my final exam in the spring. And my essay outline for an essay that I never finished, and that was sad because I was doing a lot of thinking for it. So that's unfortunate that I never finished that. Maybe I'll come back to it and finish it, just for my own sake, for my own peace of mind, because I was doing some very interesting work, at least I thought. So there are those notes. We're about halfway done with this I'm pretty sure this is for a traveler's journal insert that is now my art. Like, it has a couple sketchbooks in the bands. I just want to talk about these last two books that I got recently. I've started this one, haven't started this one. I saw Nikki Giovanni right there, and I was like, ooh. And then I realized I don't recognize a single other name, and I was like, that's kind of embarrassing. And I was like, ooh, I'm not super into poetry, but I want to be what better way to get into it than Black poetry, because I love Black writing. And Nikki Giovanni is in here, so I was like, okay, somewhere to start. And also, gotta get more familiar with these names. That's a lot of names, and I only recognize a single one. That's embarrassing. And obviously, a lot of these people probably don't only write poetry, they write other things. I'm very excited, is what I'm trying to say. And then this book that has been very difficult for me to digest because it is very academic, and I'm not in that space in my field yet. I'm still taking core classes at school because I can't afford to pay for a full semester. I haven't even transferred. I'm still at a community college. I haven't even transferred to the university that I want to go to yet. We're gonna try. We're gonna try and get there. If I can do it. The Philosophy of Translation by Damien Searles. Searles. Um, it's been very enjoyable so far, but it's definitely going to take more than one read for me to understand. And I might have to. I've been trying to just read it as is, but I'm on page 58 and I can't recall quite a bit. So I'm probably going to have to start. I might start over and start taking notes just so I'm actually. But it's very interesting and very directly what I want to get into in my field: linguistics and philosophy. The philosophy of translation doesn't get any more direct than that. So, yeah, these are my 3 books that I'm working on right now. These 3. I think that's the video. I don't really want to get into anything else. Thank you for watching.